a single word to each other.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we'll try that again.
You saw him in town
Yes.
here? I don't remember you saying it was here.
Yes.
Welcome to a brand new show.
I feel like I need a white cat, like Blofeld.
Oh my word, we went past this.
Looks like the set of Blade Runner.
I have never seen any, so yeah, thumbs up to the acting. That was all, you don't have to put that in, thumbs up to the acting. That was terrible, I actually stuck up my thumb. This is why you shouldn't leave me by myself in front of a camera. You've done that before and it ended badly. Christmas, I think.
They look great.
It's turn to pick what film we go and see. I can't remember. Such a jolly fella, isn't he? And he's been there for quite some time.
Look, just tell it like it is.
He looks a bit like Santa.
No, he is Santa. Welcome. Oh yes. It's episode 117
117
of the Bakery Bears.
And we thought we'd coordinate today.
It's because winter has officially begun. What a big show we have in store.
We do.
My goodness. And you've already seen a little sneak peek of something new that we've got coming later on. And I just wanted to start the show today just by talking just a touch about that, because after all our years together,
yes,
many years, there's one thing which Kay manages to do probably once a month. If I'm lucky, it might be twice a month. And she'll do something which will, I'm trying to think of the right words, because I want to say physically make me gasp, but that will sound wrong.
It's not going down the right route,
do you get where I'm going with this? And basically, you probably don't, so I better hurry up and say something. What happened was, we've got a brand new show starting today for you, the Bakery Best Picture Show. It's where we become Barry Norman. I wonder if many people know who we're talking about. Because I'm not convinced that Barry Norman will have travelled abroad, although he did travel to Spain, because he used to go on holiday where we went on holiday.
Did he?
He did.
Right.
And we used to go, we went once to a place called Emporias. And, I mean, what frustrates me about this place is, this was a Roman town, right?
Sounds like a Roman town.
Have I just...
Didn't look very Roman when we were there.
Because the Roman ruins are outside of the restaurant area.
Right.
I mean, would you believe that every year we went to the same place, and it's one of the most famous Roman towns in Spain, supposedly, and we never visited it, not even once.
That's not me when you say we.
No. Although we did go.
We've only been once
and
together.
we didn't go visit.
No.
Because I just didn't realise, can you believe this? I always knew that those Roman ruins were there, but I never realised how important they were. Anyway, some friends of mine went,
right,
and I got them to get postcards and all sorts, and they sent me loads of stuff, which was just amazing. But anyway, this particular place, Barry Norman, who was a really famous film reviewer, wasn't he?
Yeah, film critic type person.
The sort of 80s.
Yeah.
He used to go on holiday, and we were sat there once having a pizza.
And you saw him?
Well, yes.
Oh.
But they started playing the music.
Oh no!
Yeah.
From film, whatever
the year it was. It's a famous song.
Oh, right.
And it's got a really long title. It's something like, If You Knew What It Was to Be Free, or something or other.
Right.
It's a really weird title. I can't remember specifically what it is. Anyway, music started and we're like, oh, what's that? And there he was. There was Barry. Over he went, sat down and had some food, had a drink. And, I think it was before the time when you would ever dare go over and say, would you sign this?
I still don't think we do.
No.
Certainly not English people. We're quite...
No, because I walked straight by Warwick Davis that day.
Oh, you did?
What an idiot.
I cannot believe you didn't say hello to him, because he's super lovely. He would have totally said hello to you.
I was walking past Waterstones on my way up towards HMV.
Where? In town?
Yes, in the corn mill.
Here?
Yes.
You saw him in town here? I don't remember you saying it was here.
Yes.
What was he doing here?
I think he'd been doing a signing at HMV.
Right.
So,
in HMV.
Yeah, well, quite possibly, isn't it? But you've got pop figures, you've got
right,
DVDs,
okay.
you've got all sorts.
Right.
I did think, should I go up to him and say something?
Oh,
but
I totally would.
I was.
What do you say? This is the thing, isn't it? What do you say to people? You
I was genuinely concerned about the height difference too.
I know.
I just felt a bit like, how am I going to start a conversation with him? Because he's like way down there and he's walking past me. Anyway, so today we start a brand new show. We're going to be reviewing films. At this time of year, outside, winter has properly arrived.
It's really cold. I think it snowed down south actually.
Right.
Overnight.
Well, when I went outside this morning...
Which is weird that it snowed down south and up north we've not got any snow.
We have just freezing temperatures.
Yeah, it's really cold.
I went outside this morning and it was like, getting out and about is difficult. And that's the reason why New Adventures doesn't start until March. And
when
also,
it'll still be freezing.
Last year it was just pouring down.
Oh, it was.
But this year...
It was.
We have a solution, but more about that later on in the year. So we're starting a brand new show. We're going to be reviewing films, and as part of that, we obviously had to do quite a bit of filming. And within that filming, you got a little snippet of some of the gold which Kay put onto camera.
Look.
Now, I was not expecting this. I've just sat there. I sat there editing, so I had no idea what was about to appear before my eyes. And I wish you could have seen my emotions, because my initial emotion was sheer terror as she went, yeah, acting was good. I'm like, it was like rabbit in the headlights. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Did she really just do that?
I don't want to watch, but I can't look away. Look, it was so marvellous. I think we need to look at it again.
Oh no. So yeah. Thumbs up to the acting.
I mean, is that not sheer gold? But within the moment of me being utterly terrified, she completely saved the situation, because then she did this.
That was awful. You don't have to put that in. Thumbs up to the acting. That was terrible. I actually stuck up my thumb. That was dreadful. Cut that.
She knew what she'd done. And that is why I love you.
This is why you shouldn't leave me by myself in front of a camera. You've done that before and it ended badly.
It's really badly. It's really funny. It's like...
I just panic. I could never do anything by myself.
He starts saying the most
I just
ludicrous
start
things.
waffling and talking absolute nonsense.
It's so funny. But do you know what? It's wonderful, isn't it? Things like that. Kay was out of the room when it happened, and I wished you'd been there, because it was just the funniest thing ever. But yes, start of a brand new show. We're so excited, and do you know what? I really enjoyed it.
It was fun, yeah.
And it meant that we went and approached the whole going to the cinema thing in a whole different way.
It was. It definitely did, because you were very aware of paying more attention to what was going on.
You do. You approach things with a really critical eye.
Yeah.
You enjoy things in a different way to what you would normally enjoy them.
It was a different experience, definitely.
But before all that, I have a decree to make.
Right.
And it's going to be quite shocking.
Okay.
My days of drinking Coke
Oh, gosh.
are over.
This is so weird.
Gone.
Dan stopped drinking Coke.
Finished.
It's very strange.
I do not...
And you're not eating sweets either. Which you weren't eating tons of sweets.
I was eating enough.
But yeah, I mean... So you've stopped eating sweets and you've stopped drinking Coke, so your sugar intake has just...
And I've cut chocolate down to
bottomed, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've cut chocolate down to an absolute minimum.
And when you do eat chocolate, it's darker chocolate, isn't it? Better quality with not as much sugar.
I don't know why I decided to do this.
No, do I. It's like you've stopped being nice to yourself. No, not being nice, because that's silly, because it's not good for you, is it?
Things in moderation.
Then,
and I didn't used to drink a lot of... I didn't have anything overly. The reason why I brought this up is I feel so much better for it. And the reason why I feel better for it is I have historically in my life had sugar crashes where I've just been like, whoa, I've got to get some sugar in. And clearly what's been happening is I've been going
up and down
like a yo-yo. Yeah. So what I've done is, in place of having a Coke, I have a coffee.
So no sugar, but the caffeine's still there.
But it's also, I don't know if one of the reasons why I thought about this was because you said that you wanted to try and be more healthy this year. And, you started walking regularly, which is brilliant. All part of the Great Pyramid Run/walk.
I'm walking like an Egyptian.
She absolutely, literally.
I didn't come
You
up,
should see it.
I didn't come up with that. Somebody hashtagged it, who'd been out for a walk, and I was like, oh my word, why didn't I think of that?
We need to video ourselves walking like Egyptians.
Yes.
Oh, yes. But she's been just amazing. And also as well, you've been thinking about eating and food and things.
Yeah.
But the challenge is, how do you find...
It's really hard. I've been looking around for some new cookbooks, and I did buy one, which is up there. It's really difficult, I think, to find new cookbooks that have got food in that's where a lot of the recipes are very accessible. You might see one or two where you think, oh yeah, they look nice, but then the rest will be like really complicated or have ingredients that you've never heard of or take an hour and a half to prepare or whatever. I want quick recipes that are family friendly and that are healthy, lots of vegetables, just something different and fresh. And so it's just been really difficult to find.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that throughout life, certainly from our point of view, that's been the way of things with all cookbooks. It's been one or two, three maximum from any of the cookbooks that we've got that you find that become, staple. And I just wonder if it's the same for other people too.
Yeah. If you've got any suggestions, then put it in the comments.
Have you genuinely? Have you ever found a cookbook where 50% of the food that's in there now has become part of your regular eat? Because I find a lot of times with cookbooks, baking books, it's maybe more about people just looking through them and imagining all these lovely things, but then maybe they don't actually use the books. So I'd really like to know. You have to make a conscious effort, I think. With anything, it takes effort to make it become habit.
It is effort, and if I could find things that we all would enjoy eating, because when you add a child into the mix, it can be a bit more tricky.
Yeah, she's a lot more resilient than even you are.
She will try a lot more things these days. She's 13.
So I don't think that's as much of a challenge as it was.
No, but she, for example, we had, it was so nice. We got from Marks and Spencer's a stir fry. It was a pack of just stir fry vegetables that had lots of mushrooms in it. It was mushroom based, but it had dark green cabbage and carrot, bean sprouts. It was really nice. And then next to it, they had pea noodles. And they were coated in edamame
bean dressing
or something.
I wouldn't even know
it was
begin to create that.
Pea noodles. So there's no carbs there. It's a protein based substitute, isn't it? And then we got a sauce to put on it, which was a chow mein, I think. And just did that quickly one day for lunch. Oh my word, it was so delicious.
It was very nice. Yeah.
I said to you, didn't I could eat this absolutely every day.
Their sushi also is superb. But
sushi's really good.
One of the things that we found, or one of the things that I found during Christmas was in the really big Sainsbury's stores, they have the most amazing, I don't know if you've seen these, anyone in the UK, they have the most amazing sushi bars. I've never seen anything like it.
Not in our Sainsbury's, sadly.
With deep, great sorrow and regret, because quality sushi, you can't beat it. No. The mission for good food continues.
It does.
And it did raise another interesting sort of point. And, it's really difficult because we're right in the position of an Amazon distribution centre is about to open.
Oh my word, we went past this.
Looks like the set of Blade Runner.
I have never seen anything so big construction-wise in my life. And it's 5 minutes up the road. And we drove past it one day and I said, what is that? It was vast. Whilst it didn't say Amazon was going in there, the implication was quite clear that it was a they said, major retailer.
It doesn't take Hercule Poirot to work it out when it says a major world retailer, and then when you look a little bit further and you see that the people who are developing it are the people who develop all of Amazon's sites.
It's got to be Amazon.
And
also, there's been a bit of a hoo-ha lately about our local airport. We've got a little airport, Teesside Airport, that's been under threat for quite some time.
Well, suddenly it's staying open, so it all adds up.
we think that's, they're obviously very easy for them to get stuff in, and it's 10 minutes away, the airport.
The point to all this being is, when you look at buying books, and I don't know why Amazon got such a name, or certainly for me, it's always had a real name for books. I don't know if that's where it sort of started out, or I don't know.
They're not substantially cheaper.
Not anymore. They used to be. But the point is...
Generally like £1, I think, cheaper.
Yeah. We've always sort of tried to fight against the whole Amazon thing. But I just said to Kay the other day, I think sometimes you do have to just admit when the battle has been lost. And I think the battle has been lost. Things do tend to go full circle, don't they? And I certainly hope that they do go full circle. Yeah. But what you lack with buying things online is the experience that you had the other day in Waterstones, which is where you were talking to the guy. I did.
I bought 2 books for Bryony because she loves books, and we kind of encourage that and embrace it, and really, I'm often in Waterstones just looking out new titles that I think she'd like, and I picked up 2 books for her, and I went to the counter, and this man who works in there, he's such a jolly fella, isn't he? And he's been there for quite some time.
Look, just tell it like it is.
He looks a bit like Santa.
No, he is Santa. She said he's a jolly fella.
He does look very much like Santa.
We know.
He's got the whole big white beard. And
we know what Santa does outside of season. He works in our local Waterstones.
He works in Waterstones, he did. And he said to me, at the checkout, just paying, and he said, "Oh, these are fantastic, these 2 books. And if your daughter likes these 2, then she might like this one, and there's a new one coming out next month called this, and it's about this, and I think she'd really like it." And you don't get that with Amazon at all, do you? So I actually came home and I looked up that book, and I've pre-ordered it from Waterstones actually, rather than Amazon.
And that is what you miss, isn't it? That's what you miss when you don't have that. And you wouldn't think of it in a bookshop, would you? I think, well, a lot of people wouldn't. There might be lots of you who know this already, but just being able to go and talk to someone and buying a particular book, and someone being knowledgeable enough to be able to say, "Look, try this. She's really going to like it."
And it looks fantastic, the book you recommended. So.
It's such a shame that there aren't more. Borders was so great.
Borders was brilliant. I loved that shop. There was a great big one, wasn't there, at Teesside Park?
I think there was a book. There was also one in York, a really good one.
There was one in York.
It's controversial to say this, and we're certainly not going to stop going into Waterstones, but I do think the battle has been lost because everywhere, all we ever get is knocks at the doors with people with Amazon deliveries, for neighbours and things and all sorts, and it's just such a shame. We've got
an Amazon parcel coming today, some new headphones for me.
Yeah, I feel bad, but where else would I have been able to get them from?
But this is our point, because
the battle's lost.
Yeah, I really do feel like that, and somebody somewhere is making a massive pile of money, aren't they?
Neil, I said this was a big show. Got the Baker Bears Picture Show coming later. We've got Knitting Horizons Part 2 coming later. And there's one in particular which is going to blow your mind. But also, today, it's not 2 patterns launching. One pattern is launching today, and another pattern actually launched last week.
Yes.
And we'll speak about the one that launched last week later on in the show. But today, can you hear Freddie singing? Did you hear that they're nominated for 5 Oscars?
Oh, really?
Yes. I can't remember all of them, but one of them was Best Actor.
Brilliant.
Best Actor, Best Picture, Best
Soundtrack, it's got to be.
Well, it was mixing, I think, but Best Sound Editing.
Oh, right.
And I can't remember the others. But that's looking good, isn't it?
Come on, yes.
And to celebrate the 5 Oscar nominations...
Oh, that worked quite well.
It certainly did. The Rhapsody socks...
Yes.
...have been released today.
The pattern is out.
And you showed these last week, didn't you?
I did show them, yeah.
But,
and actually, Bryony is wearing a pair of them. But I do still have the other pair here that hasn't been worn yet. This is the pair I knitted in the stripy yarn, the Yarn Badger. So yeah, this is the Rhapsody socks. So these are out, available on Ravelry. If you would like to knit up your own Queen-inspired socks,
yes,
and cheer them on at the Oscars.
Yes, I'm so excited actually about that. But that the whole, because we spoke before about this, and it's interesting that there's lots going on for us at the moment with movies, especially after last year with us seeing so many great movies. It's sort of karma really that it's all come around to us doing some proper film reviews.
Yeah.
But any film that deserves to win an absolute bucket load of Oscars.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that. Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
I can't wait till it comes out on.
It's not long actually.
I know.
It's not long till it's out on DVD. I think you can
Early
stream
February.
it. Stream it early February, and
Yes.
then the DVD's a little bit after, isn't it?
Yeah. Stay tuned though, because another pattern launch, which happened last Friday, but it's in What's Off Your Needles.
Yes.
It's coming later on in the show. And
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh, it might be up there.
Anyway, it's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Oh, yay! I'm knitting a pair of socks for Dan, actually. I haven't had a pair of socks for you on the needles for a little bit.
I've got to say, actually,
Before Christmas, I think.
they look great.
Do you know, I'm never doing anything again. If you carry on taking the mickey out of me,
It's
I'm
only
not
the
gonna
first
do that
time I've
again.
done that.
I'll refuse to do things, and then where will you be?
Stuck
Yes.
in the
I'll
mud.
teach him, won't
How do you
I?
play that game? I never played Stuck in the Mud.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a playground game.
Stuck in the mud.
Yeah, you're stuck in the mud until... Or can you move around until someone touches you and then...
Like tag, like Tig.
Yeah, it's like Tig. And I think you go slow when you get tug. What's the...
What's the plural of Tig?
Is it...
Tigged. It's not tigged, it can't be tigged. Can it? That can't be a word.
And it can't be tug either.
He tigged me. You see, you would say that. Perfectly
What's funny is, in
acceptable.
America, I think they call it tag.
They call it tag.
I think you do. Do
Right.
you? I don't know.
But isn't that a saying in, like, rugby?
Tag rugby.
What's tag rugby? Why does that sound familiar to me?
Well, I think that's rugby where you don't tackle, but...
Don't they have, like, a thing hanging off their shorts or something? And that's what
Literal
it's called, tag?
tags?
I think that's...
No, it isn't.
I've got a recollection of seeing something somewhere where somebody has a
Things
tag
hanging off their
sticking-
shorts.
A tag sticking out of their shorts.
Tag rugby, because you can literally see our tag.
He's laughing at me, but
Rugby.
I think I might be right.
Rugby, tag rugby it's exactly the same as normal rugby. What you do is you flick your tags out on your top and your shorts, and away you go.
It's taking the Michael out of me, but I've just got a feeling I've seen something about that, and I'm going to look it up afterwards. And if I'm right, I'm going to...
Do a little dance.
I certainly am, and I'm going
Give
to...
a double thumbs up.
Right, so my pair of socks. I wanted to knit a pair of socks for Dan, but I kind of didn't fancy knitting an opal pair. I know that sounds bizarre, but I've knit a lot of opal socks for him, and I just fancied doing something a bit different. And I remembered some yarn I'd got in my stash. I've always wanted to knit Dan a pair of socks with and just never got around to it because I've just been hoarding it because it's one of my favourite sock yarns ever. And I thought, right, do you know what? The time is now to do this. So I thought, it's a plain yarn, I'll show you in a minute, well, tonal. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to maybe put a bit of texture into a sock. So I thought, oh, what shall I do? And for some reason I'd got Gansey jumpers in my head. I don't know whether I'd seen something somewhere or read something or... So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go through my stitch dictionaries and find some sort of little Gansey inspired patterns and just design a little sock for Dan. And Gansey really is just, it's mainly just knits and purls, combinations of knits and purls. So I put together a little chart, and I've got I bought myself this book from Paper Chase just before Christmas, and it's just grid squares. And it's just perfect for charting things out. Listen to me, charting things out. Can you believe it? Did you ever think you would see the day where I was actually, rather than writing out a pattern, I'd charted it? Unbelievable. So I just did a little chart, and actually in this instance, because it's just knits and purls, it actually makes sense to do it as a chart because it's just basically a picture of what you're knitting. It's very, it's not like you've got yarn overs and knit two togethers and all things like that. It's just very visual thing. So these are the yarns that I'm using. The yarn is the Uncommon Thread Tough Sock. I've spoke about this many times in the past, but I haven't used it for quite some time. And it is one of my absolute favourite sock yarns. It's an 80-20 superwash BFL and nylon, and you get 365 metres per 100 grams. So it's that bit thicker than normal, because usually you get probably 400 metres is more standard, isn't it, per 100 grams. So this is 365 metres per 100 grams, so you know it's going to be a little bit thicker. And I just really love that. It's a really nice tight twist. It's just a 2-ply, but it's a nice tight twist. And I'm using these two colours. The kind of neutrally browny, greyish sort of colour is called Smudge. And the beautiful blue is called Leaden. My stash is so old that this is an old tag that they used to do. They don't look like this anymore.
It's vintage.
It's vintage. And this is the leaden one. Because there's only 365 metres, that's why I'm using 2 colours, because I'm certain that wouldn't be enough for a pair of socks for Dan. So I'm using the smudge for the cuffs, heels and toes, and then the blue for the body of the sock. And this is where I'm up to. Oh, it's so nice. It is, I was a bit concerned that the texture wasn't going to show up too well, because it is a sort of tonal yarn. But I think actually once it, you know, the more that I knit, the more it shows up. When you look at it, you know, as I'm looking at it now up close, you can very clearly see the texture pattern. It starts with, there's a zigzag, and then there's little diamonds, and then there's like a checkerboard. So I used 3 different little motifs. And then I did a different rib, just to try something different really. And this rib, it's like I'm not sure what it's called really. I'm not sure if it's sometimes called a beaded rib, but you knit 3 purl 1 for 1 round, and then you knit 1 purl 1 for the next round. And if I just open it up, I think you can see, it's pretty, isn't it? I do think it looks pretty. But again, because the yarn is quite tonal, I think that does sort of disguise it a little bit. But in any case, it's making the knitting of it really, really pleasurable, and I'm enjoying this much more than if I was just knitting a plain old sock. It's just knits and purls, there's nothing complicated. I'm following it line by line, and because every row is different, there's 31 rows in the repeat, and because every row is different, there's a few just plain knit rows in there. It just makes it go really quick for me. And I knit this, I think on Sunday, didn't I? I did all this on Sunday, and it's 72 stitches again, and I did think about going down a few stitches because it is a slightly thicker yarn. But I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is go down to a 2.25mm. So it's producing a really nice, dense fabric, and it'll just be super hard wearing pair of socks, I think. And you know, quite special. I've designed them, they're just for you.
That's great.
You know, a special pair. And I'm really enjoying them. So it made me just think about this yarn, and I thought, I know I've got a few more skeins in my stash, so these are the only ones that I've got left actually. I haven't got any more at the moment, but I bought 2 skeins in a de-stash from lovely Sarah, from Dr. Sarah. She was de-stashing for the puppies last year, and she had 2 skeins of what is pretty much my favourite colour that they do, and this is Into Dust. So I nabbed those off Sarah, and then by chance in my stash I had a skein of Lilac, and I thought, do you know what, I might put those together and do some kind of wrap or something. 3 skeins should make a nice size, you know, maybe like a wide scarf more than a wrap, I think. It's just such nice yarn. I really, really love it. It's so nice. And if you are on the lookout for just some really good tonal sock yarn, because sometimes it's nice, I think, to knit a sock that isn't madly variegated, and we all love those types of yarns, but this is just brilliant, just beautiful colours as well, I think.
Yeah. And
they've got their own website, but then I think a lot of shops do stock them. I know, it's very similar. And I've actually knit 3 pairs of socks in the past for me with this yarn as well, so I just thought I'd pull those out just to show you. This was the first pair I ever knit, and I've had these years. And this, I think this colour was confetti, I seem to remember, but I might be wrong, but I think it was confetti. And these are Hermione's Everyday. And then I knit another pair of Hermione's Everyday in this beautiful bright pink. Can't remember the colour for this one, maybe it's Fleur something. And then I used the Into Dust. I had a skein myself and knit this pair, and this was just, I think I knit 2 plain rounds and then knit 1 purl 1 for 2 rounds. So I wear those, you know, often, and they've worn brilliantly well. There's no sign of holes, there's not a lot of wear on them. The pink has faded a little bit on the bottom, but that is a very intense colour, so it doesn't bother me, that's fine. So yes, I'm really loving it, and I'll carry on knitting it. I'm not in any great rush. I did think it might be nice to get it done for Valentine's Day, but I think we're not really Valentine's Day people, to be fair, are we?
Yeah.
But we just normally get cards. We don't normally
No.
do presents. But
Oh, no.
so I very much doubt I'll have these done. But they'll be done when they're done.
Great. Valentine's Day next year.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Dan Jones, what's on your beautiful needles?
Well, you wouldn't. I'm going to put that down there because this is a new cast on, and you won't believe it. In the history of the Bakery Bears, you're used to seeing new cast-ons where I've knit like 6 rows. And it's like, what's that? It's ribbing, it's boring, blah, 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 blah. No, not anymore. I had to stop knitting this because I was worried I was going to get so far through it that, well, I wanted you to see it. See it first. Look, it's a colourwork hat.
Yay.
It is cool. It's really great.
It's beautiful. Look how lovely that looks.
It's just really, really nice to knit, and I like how the colourwork goes from, the solid colour here to then the solid blue colour here. And when you initially look at it, well, when I initially looked at it, you think, will these colours go brilliantly together? Well, of course they did. And what was so lovely about this is leftover yarn from the Solia, because I finished with that colour. And was that stash, or did you buy that?
I just bought it at some point as
so it was stash?
It was stash. I bought a few balls of it for colourwork, so there we go.
Brilliant. So all this came from stash, which is just great. And I love, this colour's so great.
The colours look great together. Navy and gold. That's a winner.
And Kay's just going to look so amazing when she's got on a Solia with this hat.
I'm not sure I'd wear them together.
No,
Might be a bit much.
I probably wouldn't as well, actually.
No.
I've got no idea what the yarn is. Not a clue. I should do. Come on now, think.
You do know what it is.
Drops.
Yes.
Charisma.
Yes.
Oh.
And I think the gold colour is mustard. And I'm not sure what the name of the name. It's just a dark navy blue. There's no names on there.
It's Alaska.
It's not Alaska. That tag is from something else.
Oh, sorry. Okay. How would I tell the difference? What have I knit with drops Alaska?
Alaska, you knit the Samantha in Alaska. It's Aran weight.
There you go.
This is a DK weight.
And that is yarn group B.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
I have no clue. But here are the balls. And the pattern is the Silver Dream cardigan.
It's a drops pattern actually as well, and so it's free on Ravelry, and the pattern contained a cardigan and a matching hat. So the pattern's actually called Silver Dream Cardigan. It's drops 157-1.
But it's not really a pattern. Do you know what I mean? It's not like what you would expect.
It's more a recipe, they don't give you very specific instructions, but we can work with it. You've got the chart, and then you've got instructions on how to do your decreases, so that's all you need really, and a cast on number obviously. I've
enjoyed knitting this the most out of all the colourwork hats I've done so far, and I think it's because it's got the most going on that anything that I've knit. So that sort of tells me that I really do quite enjoy colour work, and that I definitely am going to do more, as much of it to be honest as I can, because this has been the most fun thing I've knit in a long time.
Oh, it looks so nice. These should have been a Hogwarts colour, shouldn't they? They look so good together.
Absolutely. I mean, they really do.
I think someone said
do another one.
Someone said somewhere that it might have been their school colours.
Yeah, they did definitely.
Does look like it would be a school colour, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I would knit. Let's see how it goes through, and let's see how it fits when I finish. Because obviously the to the top hat was a bit of a disaster, just because the length just wasn't quite right. But if this fits well, then I might knit another one. But, it's good. I'm sort of really into, because I've enjoyed.
It's really good practice. This one especially, because there's nothing complicated. But there's a lot of colour changes, isn't there? Just the way the pattern works. So, I mean, that's really good practice, isn't it?
I think because of the enjoyment I've had in, trying this something new, after focusing very much on technique with, knitting lots of monomies, which was brilliant. And also, I only did one of the other one, didn't I? I only did one of because my gauge was all over the place. I mean, that was crazy, really, starting with that split back snowflake hat.
The gauge is a nightmare. It
was bonkers.
It doesn't fit anybody, that hat, unfortunately.
I wonder, though, if I knit it again, if
you knit it again now, it would be better.
But
because you're more practiced with your colour work, but it was very sucky.
It was just too tight.
Yeah, it was all, you know, like it does with colour work. It was all ripply and
practice.
It wouldn't block.
Great practice. And it's a lovely hat, you know. The one that came it looks blooming marvellous. But, you know, I just mean, I don't know how many sizes there were on that. I mean, but perhaps if I knit a bigger size of it, perhaps it would come out better.
What's the biggest size you knitted?
Right. So I just wonder, I mean, I know I've loosened up a bit, but I mean, if I'm tight, I'm tight. And
no, you're just much better with your colour work,
okay.
you know. It's just with practice.
Yeah.
Your floats were just too tight.
Yeah.
On that first hat.
Not anymore, baby.
And there's no way of correcting that once you've finished the hat. You know, if it's that tight that you're getting those kind of ripples on the front, that's not going to block out.
Practice is what any new technique is about, isn't it? You know, repetition, practice, and you're always going to get better. And, you know, thankfully, I
think a cowl would be a really good practice thing for colour work as well, because even if that does come out, you know, that your floats are too tight, chances are that you might still be able to get it on around your neck. It might be a bit tight around your neck.
So it's the Silver Dream hat. It's in Drops Charisma. It's lovely. And if you fancy doing some nice colour work, it's definitely worth a go. What else is on your needles?
Okay. I picked this up again yesterday with the intention, I just thought, right, do you know what? I'm just gonna get on with this and just get a good amount of progress. And I knit a couple of inches and then I had to get up for something. So I popped it on the floor, walked away, came back, and then I looked at it on the floor when I came back in and I thought, you know what? I think it's too big. And my instinct when I started...
Thought that all along, haven't we?
My instinct when I cast this on, when I just had the ribbing, was that it was too big. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go with it because the pattern does say that it's designed for a loose, easy fit. So it's obviously intended to be a little bit big, but it doesn't say how much ease is meant to be knit in, really. I can't... Well, it kind of does, because it's...
That doesn't look that loose on the model.
It does tell you, you see, and really maybe I should have paid more attention to this, because if you knit the size medium, which is what I'm doing, that's a 40 to 42 chest.
That's bananas if you think about it. I'm 6'5", and, you know,
Well, I know, and this is the thing, really.
Medium?
Yes, I am. I'm knitting the size medium, which is to fit chest 40 to 42. Now, Dan's chest is a 44. But the reason I went down a size is because there was this positive ease knit into it, and the actual chest measurement of the medium comes out to almost 50 inches, 49 3/4. Now, to me, 6 inches of positive ease on a man's garment is just too much. You know, men generally wouldn't wear oversized garments, not like women at the moment. It's very popular, isn't it, to have boxy, oversized garments. And our figures are obviously very different to a man. And I just don't think men are designed to wear things that are overly oversized.
I don't like feeling bulk.
No, you wouldn't enjoy something that was oversized.
I can't stand that.
So, and I've got gauge. My gauge is spot on, you know. But the reason in the end, I was aware of this, and I thought maybe I should have done the small, because the actual chest measurement comes out 46.5. So I thought, right, okay, well there's still a bit of ease there, but that would be better. But that's designed to fit chest 36 to 38. And I thought if I knit that size, then that's going to affect the size of the shoulders, isn't it? And, you know, your chest is hugely more than 36 to 38. So it was all a bit of a quandary. So here it is. I'll show it to you before I sort of carry on talking. So I've done quite a lot, but can you see how massive it is? Look, it's absolutely ginormous.
That would fit a big fella.
It would fit 2 people inside. You know, look how massive it is. And just just holding it across down. This is obviously just the front piece. Look, it goes all the way across to there. And there'll be another piece the same size. It's ginormous. And my gauge is right, and I measured this piece, and without any kind of blocking or stretching, it's 25 inches. So that is going to, with the seaming, that probably would come out at about 50 inches, wouldn't it? But that's before I've washed and blocked it, and it's a superwash yarn. So you've got to then allow for a bit more stretch, haven't you? But even at 50 inches, when your chest as a man is 44, to have 3 inches, it's just too big.
Yeah.
You know, and I knit 2 inches yesterday. You can see I was here where the stitch marker is, and I knit a couple of inches. And then I said, I put it down and picked up something else and thought about it. And then I spoke to you about it, didn't I, yesterday? And I said, look, it's just too big. And now I've shown it to you. You can appreciate what I mean by saying it's too big.
Yeah, you didn't need to show it to me when we spoke about it yesterday. I just said, look, just stop, because I'm not going to want to wear that. I
mean, it's just massive. Look, it's huge.
It's frustrating. It's a bit of a dilemma because
it is.
I think what's happened is that, I mean, I know that cricket jumpers were big because they were designed to go on over the top of pads.
And plus you're moving a lot, aren't you? So you don't want it tight, you want some ease.
Yeah.
But that's just massive.
Also, with the greatest respect, this is not going to be worn by cricketers.
No.
So giving it the same ease that, I mean, I'm not even convinced that, I mean, I used to be around a lot of people who played cricket when I was younger, and I don't remember the jumpers being that big.
No, I don't either.
It's bananas.
But it's the Hutton pattern that I spoke about before. It's Pat Mencini. And it looks lovely. It's a lovely design, you know. I love the stitch pattern that she's put into there. I think it's really nice. But there's really no point when, you know, especially when obviously to knit a garment for me is quite an effort. I don't need to go into that whole thing again.
Wouldn't it?
So I need to be sure that my effort is worthwhile. He wouldn't be able to wear it. It's too big.
And I wonder if this is a more widespread issue with regards to patterns. Just thinking about the to the top hat.
Yeah.
That might fit someone who it was designed for perfectly.
Yeah, and somebody did comment with that it looked like that Dan had knit it too long, and because in the picture the Fair Isle stopped a bit further down, but actually he didn't knit it incorrectly. The size that he was knitting, the Fair Isle went on a bit further. If he'd knit the size below that, then you wouldn't have got that last bit of colour work at the top. So you knit it exactly to the pattern. Your gauge, I think, was fairly right.
And the width was fine.
The width-wise fit was
so if you'd gone down,
fine.
If you'd gone down, then it would have been stretched.
Yeah, but in hindsight, what we could have done is we could have cast on, obviously for the size, like you said, width-wise was fine. Once we realised it was getting too long, we could have stopped the colour work earlier. And that's maybe what we should have done. But that's with hindsight, isn't it? And that's with the knowledge of knowing things like that. If you're just knitting that pattern and
for the first
time, you wouldn't think of that. You think, right, I'm knitting that size, my gauge is as it should be, I'm going to follow the pattern. So,
I do think I'm a great believer in the first instance when you're knitting through something, you've got to have faith in the pattern, because if you go off-piste, well, you've...
And it could be that it's designed to have that amount of slouch. It's just that I think colour work and slouch don't necessarily go together, because those floats on the back are stopping it really from slouching to the point that you need it to.
And similarly, this may have been designed for someone in particular who it fit lovely.
Yeah, maybe so.
And then when
it looks pretty good on him, but this is another thing that would have been useful, is I would have liked to have known what size that was. And you do see this a lot with patterns. It will say model is a size 42 chest, wearing a size medium or whatever. And I think that's really useful. If we'd have known the chest size of this fella and then the actual size of this garment that he was wearing, then that would have been really helpful, I think. So it is as it is.
Rip it out and move on.
I probably won't even rip it out, because, you know, I wouldn't want to reuse the yarn, and I've got loads of... You see, the other thing is I've got loads of this cream yarn, and I've still got some of the balls of this, but...
I'll use it for my next colourwork project.
Well, you could, that's true, and... You know, I could always knit a scarf or something for you, and then at least you'd have a scarf in the colours of...
Don't knit a scarf, Kay.
You won't use one.
Oh, no, I might do, but I've done that before, and it's like...
Oh, boring, I know. But when I say scarf, I mean more of a wide scarf. But anyway...
Do a cowl if you want.
A cowl, maybe.
I'm more likely to wear a cowl.
It won't go to waste. I'm just a bit frustrated, really.
Do me a white cowl and do browns on it.
Oh, get on. Well, I could do that, but I'm not going to.
No, it's fine. I'll do that myself.
So, yeah, sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry
I could do it.
that.
I could do it. There you go.
But...
Because it could be like a colourwork thing.
Well, yeah, you could just chart out browns. That'd be really easy.
I might just do that.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
So I'm really sorry, really sorry.
Finished?
Yeah.
Excellent. What else is on my needles? Well, it's another... Well, it's not a new cast on, is it? But you haven't seen this. Because I've cast this on and knit all of this without ever showing it to you once. And that's not because I haven't shown it to you for ages, because it's just the show before last that you did see the last sock. Oh yes, it's just because I'm so much quicker now. I'm still not as quick as Kay though. Did you see how much she knit in a day on that sock? That Gansey one, for me, that's just nuts.
I'm not that quick.
It'd take me like a week to do that.
I'm really not that quick.
Well, here it is, Jemima sock, and I absolutely love this repeat because I don't need to look at the pattern. And I also love as well that it's totally resolved for me the knitting the right length of leg, because you just count the purl bumps. And it's just worked like a dream. Whereas the last two pairs of socks, I've absolutely messed up the tops. What?
You've knit this rib longer than this one. I knew you had.
Well, at least I've done the leg the right length.
It's totally longer, look.
This is why, once I've knit this pair of socks, I'm not knitting anymore. As soon as I finish knitting these, it's time for me to knit some gloves, and I'm excited about that, actually. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But
these are so fun. I love this yarn. Look. Beautiful.
Nicole C. Mendez, Disco?
Disco. Disco. Yes.
There you go. And then the lovely contrast heel, which is fun. I mean, I do enjoy doing that, actually. You know, it's... And especially where you don't cut the yarn. It's the first time when I knit that one.
It's the first time you've done that?
When I knit that one, it's the first time I've done that. So, you know, and it sort of makes sense because you think, how's that even possible? But of course it makes sense because you end up back where you started from. So you just grab the yarn and just carry on knitting. It's great. So, good progress. And who knows where it'll be the next time, because I'm just a little way into that heel and, you know, hopefully I'll remember to turn the heel. I've not forgotten that in a little while.
Just try and knit a bit tighter when you're turning the heel.
Maybe I should try and knit a bit tighter on the whole heel. Should I?
Well, probably, because it's very baggy.
Does that look tighter?
It looks the same as this one.
Cool. So I can tighten up a little bit then.
Well, yeah, but don't go, you know, the other way kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's mainly the heel turn, really. Just make sure, can you see how loose it is, look, on the heel turn?
Yeah.
Compared to your stitches here.
Yeah.
No.
It's clearly because of the...
It's because you're going backwards and forwards, I think, rather than in the round.
Yeah.
So just be conscious of, you know, tighter on your heel turn.
So, yeah, Jemima socks, and, you know, we'll see where I'm at next time.
They are lovely. I can't wait. They're so fun, aren't they? Beautiful. Beautiful. Sound like Elf.
What else is on your needles?
Right. My last thing to show you this time is the gloves that I'm working on. Because, miracle of miracles, I've finished a glove. Look. Oh. How nice is that? All done. And actually, they don't take very long. Do you know, if you sat and just knit a glove, I reckon you could knit a glove in a couple of days. There's not a lot of yarn in them. It's just the thought of it, I think, that puts people off.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. Yes, it can be a bit fiddly, but no more so than toy knitting, I would say. I don't think it's as fiddly as, nowhere near as fiddly as some of the toys I've knit in the past. So it really just, you know, you've just got to set your mind to it and think, what a lovely thing to have on my hands, especially this time of year, you know, when it's super cold. A really lovely pair of hand knit gloves. So yeah, that's the first one done. I've never had hand knit gloves before, so it's a really nice feeling. And then I've got the second one on the go. I'm working on the thumb gusset increases at the moment, and I'm doing a tutorial series for this, so I'm in the middle of recording it right now. So the yarn I'm using it was a gift actually, which is very nice. It's Eden Cottage Yarns Oakworth 4-ply, and it's Wild Orchid, and it's 100% New Zealand Polwarth, which I've never used before, Polwarth yarn. It really is not the softest yarn in the world, but I haven't washed this yet, and I do hope it softens a bit, because it's fine on your hands. It doesn't feel really soft on your hands, but it's not prickly or anything like that. but I think it will be nice if it does just soften a little bit. So hopefully it will when I give it a nice soak with some lovely wool wash. But I really love the colours are really pretty. It's fun to have a nice fun pair of gloves, isn't it? So I'm using the Anne Budd book, Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns. I've used this before. I used it for Dan's gloves, and I'm pretty sure I've used it for mittens as well at some point. But it's really good. It's a really good basic book if you want to learn just sort of basic techniques on construction of things like gloves and mittens and hats. There's lots of different crown decreases for hats, which I think is lovely. So as a designer, you know, even if you're not a designer, if you just fancy having a little go at doing something, and I would really encourage you to do that. You know, I was going to say that actually when I was knitting Dan's socks, that it's the best feeling in the world to actually fully create something for someone. To think up that idea and to put it together on paper and then to choose your yarn and then to start knitting it and to actually see it knit up in a fabric, you know, what was in your head and then down on paper and then into a knitted fabric, and you're thinking about, I'm always thinking about the person that I'm knitting it for or designing it for, you know, if it's a design that I'm going to put out, I'm maybe thinking of the sock knitters if it's a sock pattern, thinking, oh, you know, will they enjoy knitting that? Is it pleasant to knit? Is it fun? Is it pretty? What yarns could they use with it? It's just such an enjoyable process for me.
I think also with regards to that you mentioned there's different types of hat decreases.
Yeah.
Everyone's heads are different shaped, aren't they? And it, just like how certain toes might suit you better, similarly certain heels, gloves, you know, when you're making it for yourself or for someone else, if you knit a particular, I bet you there's loads of people who would knit a particular design and, you know, perhaps not knit it again because it didn't fit as well as perhaps it could. Well, if you just swapped out and swapped in and tried different things like you do with socks, if you've tried knitting socks, then you can tailor things that you want to knit so that it fits you perfectly.
Like, these are I mean, I'm not showing you anything here, that just shows you all the different decreases that are in there. And all you've got to do is just figure it out with your stitch count.
Yeah.
You know, and quite often, you know, hats are designed in such a way that the decreases are going to fit with the cast on number. That's one of the things you've got to think about when you're working out the number to cast on. So chances are there'll be one in there that will fit your stitch count, you know, and there's lots of different stitch counts in there to go at. So it's a very good book. It takes a bit of mental thought to use it because there's lots of different sort of charts, loads of numbers, stitch counts, gauges, but just if you're going to use it, I would say just take half an hour. You know, if you've chosen, say you're doing the gloves, just take half an hour to measure your hand, to make a note of that, to check your gauge, work out what gauge you're working with. And then what I did was I just sort of wrote out what I needed to do, and then that way I'm looking at this rather than referring to this where you've got lots of numbers on a page and it might be tricky to see the one that you're working from. And that process might just take you half an hour just to figure all that out, but then it makes the knitting of it really easy because you've got it all, you know, you've written yourself out a little pattern. So it's a great resource, I think, that, and you know, I've got a perfectly lovely fitting glove. And
then you'll have two, because then I'll knit you some.
And then you're going to knit some, although you can obviously use double points to knit these, but you've not got very many stitches on. For my size, you know, I think the little finger had like 14 stitches on, which even on, you know, on 3 double points, that's not many stitches on each, and it can be a bit. So I would say magic loop is the way to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll carry on with that, and hopefully not too long I'll have a finished pair of gloves.
Cool.
And I'm using 2.5mm.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our brand new show, the Bakery Bears Picture Show, I just want to take a moment to let you know, we spoke last week about how we are always, innovating and trying to create new shows and produce new things. And another thing that we're always pedaling really hard in the background doing is making sure that our production level stays as high as possible. And for those people who download the show on iTunes or anywhere where you can download shows, you should be able to find the Bakery Bears. For those of you who download, you will have noticed in the last few episodes a dramatic increase in production quality. We were having to split it into two halves, and we weren't able to compress it in such a way where it looked as good as it maybe should. Well, lots has changed. Now it's time for us to focus on people who watch it on YouTube. And this is the first show we've ever done which we're broadcasting in what people call 2K. I don't really know what that means, but basically there's a lot more pixels on the screen. So the screen should be a lot clearer. And the way that you can check is this. If you're watching it in the YouTube app, if you look up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, which I think will be up there, it's really tricky thinking about this. Yeah. It's like stage left and stage right. There's three little dots. If you tap those dots, a thing will appear and it will say quality. And if you tap on the quality, you can select the quality. Previously, we were in 1080 and now we're in 1440. So you can adjust it. If you're watching it on a desktop, it's slightly different because you can only get the 1440 if you use Google Chrome. So the best way to watch it is actually in the YouTube app. But yes, we're always trying to improve. That's a big area of improvement that hopefully you'll see a difference for. Less talk from me now, because I think it's time that we began our new adventure. Is it possible in January to find a film which a lady and a gentleman can enjoy? That is our quest, and we're going to venture out to the cinema right now to see if we can succeed. At this time of year, getting out and about in these freezing cold temperatures can just be impossible.
But there's one place where you are always guaranteed a good time.
The cinema! So over the next few episodes, join us as we try and find films we both love.
Along the way, we'll try some cinematic treats.
And in the chair of truth, we'll give you our honest reviews.
This is the Bakery Bears Picture Show.
Welcome to a brand new series. For the next 3 shows, we're going to be taking you along to a little trip to our local cinema.
Oh my goodness, oh yes, and our goal is to try and find a film which we both enjoy, and I think it's going to be quite a challenge.
Yes.
Now, we've agreed on 4 categories which we're going to have a really close look at when we're looking.
Yep.
Yes. Let's take a look at what those categories are.
The first is storyline. Could we follow it? Were there strong characters and could we relate to it?
Then comes acting. Did the actors portray their characters well, and did we enjoy their performances?
Music for us is a big one. We're looking for a soundtrack that adds to our enjoyment of the film and in a perfect world makes us want to buy the soundtrack once the movie is over.
Finally, it's cinematography. Does the movie create a visual world that the story can be properly told within? So the question is, what precisely we're going to see, because I have absolutely no idea, and that's really the whole point of the Bakery Bears Picture Show. Yeah. It's about the other person trying to pick something which we're both going to like, and the pressure's on, Kay, it really is.
I know. It was really hard for me to make a decision because I don't make decisions, and normally I'll say to Dan, what should we do? And he'll say, and then I'll say, okay. But this time I had to make the decision myself, and I have gone for Stan and Ollie.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I know. I wouldn't have normally, I bypassed it completely, and I wouldn't have chosen this film at all. I wasn't historically a massive Laurel and Hardy fan. So, but it's got some good actors in it, that's what I thought. Yeah. And I thought, well, it might be funny, and that's a good way to start, I think, isn't it, with a bit of humour?
I am genuinely shocked.
Oh, right.
I thought that you'd pick Mary Poppins Returns.
I almost picked Mary Poppins, but do you know what? I'm a bit like on the fence about watching another version of Mary Poppins because, you know, there's only one version in my mind and
you can't replace
I kind
Julie
of don't
Andrews.
want to ruin it. Yeah,
No,
I don't want to ruin the Julie Andrews version. So I thought, no, let's go for something completely different and hopefully we'll like it.
I think, I mean, stood here now, I think it's an absolutely brilliant choice because I was convinced that you were going to pick Mary Poppins.
I nearly did. My finger was over the button.
It's perfectly all right me saying it's going to be a brilliant choice. The film might be rubbish.
It might be rubbish. It might be rubbish. You know, and then I'll have egg on my face, won't I?
No, of course not. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. That's a really bold decision.
Okay.
Neil, no trip to the cinema is worth its salt without cinema food, shall we say. And
snacks.
Yeah, snacks. Now, we normally bring stuff, and we have brought stuff, because it's so expensive.
It is.
But
stupid, isn't it?
We've decided that for the Bakery Bears Picture Show, we're going to be trying a different ice cream. Every trip, and I'm thinking what an error that was, given that I'm virtually shivering.
It's like about -3.
Cold.
It's freezing today. It's really cold.
But look. You can't really see.
No, it's genuinely really cold.
But yes, I'm going to try different ice cream. Are you going to try some too?
It depends on the flavour.
Right.
I'll see.
Okay, we're going to try different ice cream each time, and I'll tell you if I like it or not as well. So it's an ice cream review as well. Let's get in there and have a look at those tasty treats. It's strawberry cheesecake. Now, I've got to say, I was a bit sceptical, but I'm actually really looking forward to this. And I'm really glad they had Ben and Jerry's, because it looked like it was just going to be Haagen-Dazs, didn't it?
Yeah.
That would have been, well, no, it's wrong to say this.
Haagen-Dazs is okay.
Well, I do think Haagen-Dazs is more adult. It's more of an adult ice cream. It tastes like an adult, whereas this, for me, this tastes, this looks good. I'm impressed. I've never had strawberry cheesecake before. Okay, are you going to try some of this as well?
I'll have a little bit,
right. It's not bad at all, actually. What I'm impressed about is I was expecting it to have those ice crystals in it because it had been sat in I'm assuming it's been sat in the freezer a long time, but I don't think this will have done. Ben and Jerry's is very good though. Have you ever tried this flavour before, Kate?
No.
No.
I don't believe so.
No. I haven't either. I really like that a lot.
So I'll have a tiny bit.
Do you not like it? So you don't like it?
Not for me, I'm afraid, that one. But if you like it, that's cool.
I do. I think it's time we went and took our seats.
Yes, let's go.
So, as we make our way into the auditorium to watch the movie, let's find out what this film's about. Well, it's the true story of Hollywood's greatest comedy double act, Laurel and Hardy. It's brought to life for the first time on the big screen, and it's starring Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly. Stan and Ollie is the heartwarming story of what would become the pair's triumphant farewell tour. With their golden era long behind them, the pair embark on a variety hall tour of Britain and Ireland. Despite the pressures of a hectic schedule, and with the support of their wives Lucille and Ida, a formidable double act in their own right, the pair's love of performing, as well as for each other, endures as they secure their place in the hearts of their adoring public. That's the story that we're about to watch. I wonder what it'll be like. Let's take our seats and find out. I didn't speak too loudly because the room's so big. There's only 6 of us in here. I love it, but we're ready for Stan and Ollie. Come on. No thoughts yet. We've agreed that the only way we can give our honest opinion on this is if we give you our opinion privately. So to do that, we need the chair of truth. Right, folks. We've seen the film, but we haven't said a single word to each other.
But what we are going to do is we are going to share our thoughts individually, privately, in the chair of truth.
So, shall we take a look at what we've said? Shall we?
Yeah, oh yes, we shall.
Let's do it. Look down here and we can watch.
This is our chair of truth.
Oh yes, and this time I'm going to sit up. Storyline. Really, it is what makes or breaks a movie, isn't it? Because if it's got a storyline that's interesting and keeps moving forward, then you feel engaged, you enjoy a film. If it doesn't, you know, if there are periods where it maybe drifts a little bit or quite often storylines can become confusing, can't they? That's where films can lose it. And I felt that the storyline for Stan and Ollie was surprisingly sad. And that was the underlying feeling really throughout the film for me. And perhaps that's what they were going for, because the film is about the ends of their career.
It actually wasn't what I expected. I kind of expected it to be the early years of Laurel and Hardy, but actually the storyline wasn't that at all. It began in 1937 when they were kind of at the height of their fame, if you like, and then it kind of rapidly jumped 16 years, so it was now sort of 1953 and things had taken a turn. I mean, I don't really know the history of them, but it sounded like they maybe both had drinking problems and they had a bit of a falling out. I mean, it was the war years, wasn't it? So I don't know if that's got something to do with it. But they were kind of back together. They were trying to resurrect their career and they were doing a tour all around the UK. And it's funny because they went to Newcastle at one point, and the scene of Newcastle, Dan sort of whispered in my ear and he said, "I know exactly where that is." And they'd made it obviously look like 1953, but you could still tell exactly where it was in Newcastle, which I think is a great thing. So I really enjoyed the storyline actually. It gave you a lot of information I didn't have a clue about their what their relationship was like in the later years of their career.
I definitely found interesting, and it's made me want to sort of, Google and Wikipedia things and find out a little bit more. So the storyline can't have all been bad, but I felt where it went wrong was, at times it felt like it was drifting. It was, you were waiting for something to happen. And I desperately wanted something to happen because it started well, the film started well, it set the scene well. So opening, everything's great, then time jump, and then it was like for the next 30, it felt to me like the next 30 or 40 minutes that nothing really happened. I really wanted something to happen. And, for me, that was a missed opportunity, I think, because, if I go see a film, I want to feel like every minute of my time I have been moving forward with the story, enjoying it, living whatever I'm supposed to be living with regards to where we are and, the time that we're in. And so for me, I was disappointed by that.
What did I think of the acting? I thought it was brilliant actually. I thought it was really great. I think the people that they cast were absolutely spot on. Steve Coogan, the mannerisms and everything that he got for Stan Laurel were just brilliant. And likewise with the other fella, I can't remember the other fella's name who played Oliver Hardy.
There was particular moments where they were doing things which Laurel and Hardy were famous for. Their dance routines and their songs, and they clearly studied their characters so well that it really did feel like you were watching those real characters on screen. So the lead acting most definitely was superb. Seeing these two characters embody those, these two actors, embody those characters was just absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately for me, I felt that the supporting cast was forgettable and really rather poor. Their two wives were okay, but the character which stands out for me as making me feel that the acting was just not up to par from the supporting cast was within the film they go on tour in England, and their English tour manager, it was like he was playing it for laughs. And that might sound funny when you consider, we went to see a film called Stan and Ollie. You would think that the film was going to be about a lot of laughs. Well, it wasn't. So to have this tour manager who is just, it was like a send-up. He would say lines and I didn't know whether I was supposed to laugh or not. So whilst the lead characters were great, I did not like the supporting cast. Now then, onto a subject very close to our heart. Music for me can be another character in a film. It can take us places emotionally which acting, cinematography, storyline can only get us so far towards. Music's got the power to do wonderful things for us, hasn't it? You know, used in the right way, it can add to excitement, it can create tension, it can create emotion. Well, the music in this film was nondescript.
I'm trying to think now if there was. I don't think there was really that much music. What they did do is when they were playing in the theatres, you know, when they'd put their shows on in the theatres, there was a band down in the pit. That made me think of Dan. And they were playing the Laurel and Hardy music, and that was excellently done. I thought that was really great. But, you know, it wasn't a film where I noticed any music in particular. I don't think it was a lot more dialogue though.
And I think that that is tremendously sad when you consider that this film started in 1937. So, you know, there's all sorts of different directions you could go in. You know, you could maybe even throw out the obvious and you could just use music as a sort of background noise to add all those emotions. Well, they didn't do any of that. Yes, there was some high points. Hearing the famous Stan and Ollie theme tune played really well. It sounded just like I remember it. Was really cool.
You kind of want to hear the Laurel and Hardy music, don't you, in a film about them, but actually I don't think we really heard it until fairly close to the end, and it was very well done with an orchestra. It was really great. So.
But we're talking about the soundtrack to the film here, and it was just nondescript, and I think that's really sad. I think that because the music wasn't there, because they didn't take their opportunities to have a really great score which could have done something for the film, it made the overall look and feel of the film a bit like a drama that you would expect to see on the TV.
So the cinematography, I think this is one of the film's strongest points. I thought the cinematography was great, so that's, you know, how the film looks basically. And I was really paying attention to it. It's funny when you're watching a film that you know you want to tell people about afterwards, you kind of are paying a bit more attention to things. And I was paying a bit more attention to things like the cinematography because I really enjoy that in a film. And there was lots of scenes on trains, and it's trains in the 1950s it would have been, mid-1950s, so there were steam trains, you know, and they were having dinner and there was cut glass crystal and, you know, beautiful cutlery, and the seating was all lovely and it was wood panelled, and I thought that was brilliant. And obviously it must have been a set, you know, when they were filming on the train, but out of the window looked very realistic. You know, you could full well believe that that was actually outside the window when...
I felt that the cinematography was desperately disappointing. There was some high points, there was some great train scenes, and, you know, always lovely to see a steam train and, you know, to be sat on that steam train and getting the feel of the train. Overall, we were spending more time on tour with Stan and Ollie in theatres and in hotels and, you know, in locations. And it didn't feel like I was watching, it didn't feel like I was living in the world in which they were in. Do you know what I mean? And for me, a good film transports you into that world. Yes, you know, we've spoken about the storyline and how it dips in the middle, but we had a great start and a good end, and enough interest to make me want to sort of search it afterwards. So we've got a pretty good storyline, we've got two great leads. If you filmed it right, this for me is the moment where you could have made up for the fact that the music wasn't particularly good.
At the very beginning of the film, they were... I'm not sure where they were, whether they were in America. I'm presuming they must have been in America. It might not have been America, it could have been London, couldn't it? I can't remember, but they were in one of these huge recording studios, and they started off in their dressing room and then they walked all the way through the like outside bit, you know, where you see like lots of different people running around and just all things going on that go on in a recording studio. And they walked, it was quite a long walk, from their dressing room all the way through different sound stages, is that the right word? Probably not. Different recording sort of stages to where they needed to be. They were filming, what was it called, the cowboy film that they did? Was it Way Out West? I might have got that wrong, but that's the bit in the film that they were doing. They were filming that film, and that was brilliantly done. I really enjoyed all the costumes were brilliant. On the women in particular, now all the dresses were really lovely in the 50s, weren't they? And so yeah, I really loved the cinematography. I thought it was fantastically done.
It felt like a low-budget movie. So I've got to say, I'm disappointed with the cinematography.
So my overall thoughts on the film, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to say I'll give it 3 stars, but it's, you see, I kind of want to go 4, but then I think 4 stars is really high, isn't it? And although I really enjoyed it, I've seen films this last year that have been a lot better. I'm going to go with 3. Can you see how indecisive I am?
So what were my final thoughts? I liked this film, but when you consider all the areas that we've spoken about, and whilst I always want to give a film a star that I go see with Kay, because it's lovely to go out and see a movie with a loved one, isn't it? I can't do that here because this is the jar of truth. So I can't be giving it a star just because it was a nice trip to the cinema with Kay. No, I have to give it stars on my actual thoughts. Well, I would give this movie 2 stars out of 5. Well, what an interesting process to not say a single word to each other.
It was weird coming out and just like not saying anything.
Yeah. It's really, really weird. And I've got to say, I feel slightly bad now.
No, I think I may be being too generous. You see, this is the thing, isn't it? Because I'm so influenced by what other people think.
But by not having an influence, that's excellent. What we've got is more of an honest.
Well, that's true, but then it's just made me feel a bit silly. I'm thinking, gosh, was it actually not very good? And
No.
Just was being kind.
No. I did not say that the film wasn't very good. I said I was disappointed with certain aspects.
Yeah.
The acting from the 2 leads was stupendous.
It was brilliant.
And it is like...
And we both said that.
Yes, it's like you are watching Stan and Ollie, which I think is a very hard thing to pull off, isn't it? For anyone who is becoming a character. Rami Malek, of course, did it brilliantly with Freddie Mercury. Similarly now, you've got Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly doing it brilliantly for Stan and Ollie. Where I felt that it was let down was in the supporting cast.
No, I didn't mind them. I
thought the tour manager dude...
Right.
It was like... It was like he was playing it for laughs, you know.
I didn't
It was like a send-up
right.
of that type of character. It was just nuts.
See, it's amazing really how people pick up on different things, because that didn't bother me. The supporting cast, I thought, were all fine. I didn't...
Yeah. And you know, the area where I felt bad was perhaps a little bit on the cinematography, because Kay made a brilliant point, you've just seen there, where at the start of the film they did this great sort of flowing scene where they started in their dressing rooms and they end up on set filming Way Out West. You got the title exactly right. And that was really clever. But I just didn't feel like I was looking at...
I know what you mean now.
Now
you say that. I do know what you mean. But again, it wasn't something I was very conscious of when I was watching it.
Because clearly you were sucked into the story and you were enjoying what you were watching.
Yeah, it must have been. I did say that I did think one scene in particular just looked like a set.
Yes.
And it did look like a set.
Yeah.
So... I agree with you on that.
You know, the really unfortunate part, of course, as we've discussed at length, was the music, which is just non-existent.
There just wasn't any, really, a tiny bit.
I think, though, you know, our final thoughts should be, would we recommend this to people?
I would say if you're aware of Laurel and Hardy and you want to know a bit more about their story, then I would say, yeah, I think you will enjoy it.
But
if you're going into it expecting a very period piece,
you're not going to get that.
You're not going to get that. But if you're interested in the human element of it,
you see, you said at the start of the show, you said I wasn't interested particularly in Stan and Ollie. And you enjoyed that film.
Because I wasn't that much of a fan of them. That's why.
But you enjoyed that film.
I did enjoy it. Yeah, I did enjoy it.
So perhaps have we found a film which is very suitable for ladies?
For ladies, that's a sweeping statement, isn't it?
Well,
I don't think it makes a difference if you're...
Well, I'm a bloke, you're a woman.
Yeah.
And to my eye, the cinematography was bad.
Right.
It drifted in the middle.
I think
you know,
But you sat and
woman,
enjoyed it.
As a woman, I just picked up on different things. As I said, you know, I really loved the costumes.
Yes.
I really loved the, you know, seeing all the internals of the trains, and I loved the, you know, that element of it. Of whereas a man necessarily, you know, strictly speaking,
Yes.
you wouldn't be bothered about what the women were wearing.
No.
So I think you just appreciate different things, don't you?
I think in summary, and do correct me if I put words in your mouth here, in summary, this was a film which we both had a nice time watching.
Yeah.
We don't think it's the type of film that you need to go to the cinema to see.
No, I don't think so.
This is the type of thing that when it hits a streaming service like Netflix or Amazon or whoever, or, you know, if you are interested in Stan and Ollie, you might choose to buy the DVD. It's not something which you need to see on a big screen.
I don't think so, no. It's a great knitting film to knit, you know, if you, like
It's a
Dan
shame it's
said,
so
if
dark
you...
in there.
Oh, yeah, no, I can never knit in the cinema. But what I mean is
That's
when
a
it
great
is
point.
available to stream, you know, get your earphones in, get your knitting out. And I think it's a brilliant film to knit along to because...
I think you've made a brilliant point.
Yeah.
If I'd been knitting, I wouldn't have been quite so, well, this is drifting now, I'm not engaged.
Yeah.
So that's it.
1 down and 2 to go, but what a great start.
So, see us back here in 2 weeks when it will be Dan's turn to pick what film we go and see in another Bakery Bears picture show.
And next time, hopefully I won't be coming with Nanook of the North.
It's freezing.
What fun! I had a great time. I really did.
Yeah.
You know, going to the cinema, not knowing what you're going to see is... I've never been in that position before, so that was great. Seeing a film which I, you know, probably wouldn't have picked myself was really lovely.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just fun. And, you know,
It was fun. And there was like 10 of us in there. It was in screen 1. I couldn't get my head around them putting it into screen 1. That's like the biggest screen. There's 8 screens, I think.
They
there.
probably just rotate them through
They probably
automatically.
do, yeah.
Whatever's the
But
newest thing.
There was
goes in.
literally about 10 of us in there, and everyone else was probably over 60.
Definitely worth a watch on DVD or on stream.
Yeah.
And you know, knitting, it would have been a perfect
Great
film.
knitting film, I
Yes.
think it would have been, yeah.
We need one of those little lights in. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
They wouldn't like that
They
very
wouldn't
much.
like that.
They stop
No.
us rather quickly. It's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, because look at this. What's off your needles?
Well, this is my dobbin wood.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So this design, I've had this, sorry, I'll just rearrange myself. I started this last summer. The inspiration came when we were away on holiday in the Lake District last year.
It was such a profound holiday for us.
Yeah.
It really was.
And we can't wait to go back.
We cannot wait to go back. And what was so lovely was, you know, we found so many stunning, beautiful places. And Dobbin Wood, we're coming down that from that high point. I can't remember what it's called. From
Something-
Kirkstone Pass or
Kirkstone
something.
Pass.
Coming down off the Kirkstone
Terrifying.
Pass.
Yeah.
You're driving through this valley that looks like something out of prehistoric times.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And there, you know, at the bottom, you find Olswater.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
The most gorgeous of all the lakes. And on the very first wood that we hit coming down off there is Dobbin Wood. And that's what inspired this design.
So hence the name. And it just made me think of, you know, I just wanted something to wear that I could just throw on, wrap around, and it'd just keep you really cosy.
Because what you find, I think, and I never really realised this, I don't know who explained it to me, but wind, as it passes over the top of water, chills off.
All right.
So if you're walking around a lake, you need something
It'll
to keep you
feel
warm.
cooler than, yeah, I never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. So I just had this thought in my head, and then I thought, right, okay, I know the shape I want it to be to achieve that kind of garment-like feeling, but, you know, it's not got sleeves or anything like that. And then I chose the yarn. It's knit with John Arbon, knit by numbers DK. So it's a DK weight, but it knits up to 20 stitch gauge. So you could get away with something like a Cascade 220, I'm sure you'd get it to knit up to that gauge as well.
because I think it's DK and worsted, depending on the worsted, but they can sometimes be quite interchangeable. So it's a 20 stitch gauge that you want to be aiming for. But saying that, you know, if it's a little bit, it doesn't need to fit necessarily, you know, it's a kind of one size fits all. You can lengthen it if you want to, that's easily done. You just need more yarn, obviously, if you wanted to do that. But yeah, I wanted to use the DK weight yarn because you're going to get the warmth with it, but it's not very heavy. So you've got the best of both worlds, I think, there. And then the inspiration for the design, I'll take it off so I can show you the back. So basically how it's constructed, imagine a huge rectangle, but then it's split part way up. And the two fronts are the bit where it splits. So this is kind of the split up the front, and then it falls down the back is just the bottom portion of the rectangle. It's based on a wrap that's called, it's from the Andes region, I believe, and it's called a ruana, R-U-A-N-A, and that's where the sort of shape inspiration came from. So I'll take it off so I can show you the design that's on the back. So you start knitting down here at the bottom, and then you work up, and there's 3 different colours, as you can see, and then the lace section, the inspiration for that is basically the Lake District itself. The little lace motif is the mountains, and then there's moss stitch in between, which is like the ripply water. So I went for a pale blue for that section, and then I've gone for the dark grey because that reminded me of the colour of the sort of mountains, the cragginess of the mountains, because I believe it's slate, have I got that right? But it's a very dark stone. And then this lovely nutmeggy sort of neutral just made me think of autumn colours, you know, in the wood especially. Warm, autumnness, I suppose. So you work up the section just as a rectangle, back and forth, it's knit, and then you split for the fronts. So this is one front, you can see. And then what I did at the end here is I didn't want to repeat the same lace motif. I wanted something different, but again something inspired by the Lake District. So I went for these lovely eyelets that just reminded me of big fat raindrops, because let's face it, it's the Lake District, hence all the water. So I just thought the lovely big raindrops just made me think of that. And I just love how that looks with those eyelets. I spent quite some time doing different decreases and yarn overs and things like that just to get an eyelet that I really liked, that was nice and round. I know that sounds silly, doesn't it? But it was a detail that I spent quite a lot of time on, just trying different ways to work that to get a nice round raindrop looking eyelet. You know, it's a straightforward knit, nothing complicated in it at all. If you wanted to use the John Arbon Knit by Numbers, they did give us a discount code to get 10% off, which is on the pattern page on Ravelry. The details are on there. It's valid until the 11th of February. But basically, if you key in the word Dobbinwood Love, all uppercase, all one word, on checkout, then you get 10% off. All of the yarn requirements are on Ravelry that you need, yardage allowances, and my testers used lots of different colours actually, which was great. So again, if you go onto the Ravelry project page, you'll be able to see lots of different versions. Sarah Hepworth knit an absolutely beautiful version in the John Arbon Knit by Numbers, and it was like a grey and mauvey purpley sort of theme, and it looked really lovely. One thing I will say about this yarn, it's a merino. If you don't know John Arbon Knit by Numbers, it's 100% merino. I believe it's a Falklands merino. It's beautifully soft. I did have an issue with the yarn bleeding when I washed it, and Sarah also had that issue as well, and we both actually blocked it in almost cold water and it still did bleed. So I actually went back to John Arbon and told them about it, and they said to me, don't worry, it's very normal for the process and it won't affect your finished item. You know, the dark colours won't bleed into the light. So they said it was something that was standard. They you know, as far as they were concerned, it was nothing to worry about. And they were quite correct. It didn't bleed, and Sarah's didn't bleed from the dark into the light either. But just something to be aware of, that when you block it, just be a bit careful. I would say use really cool water, a little bit of wool wash, and just go kind of steady. Stick a couple of colour catchers in there, maybe, might be helpful too. I'm using it particularly at the minute for my early morning knitting. You know, you can just pop it on, and it's kind of like wearing a cardigan, but without having to wear a cardigan, you know. So you just pop it around, and you can just have it like a normal shawl. Or like me, you can have one section over like that. You could have a shawl pin just to keep everything in place. If you remember, I made the, what's it called, the Dorset button. Do you know that great big button that I made? That's what I actually made this for. But I found that when I put it on, it just wasn't substantial enough to hold it into place. I think because I found it so difficult to sew the pin on the back, it just wasn't stable enough to use. But I think a shawl pin that would be really great is those ones that are like maybe wooden, where you get a circle and then a stick to pop through them, and I think that would be great. That would really hold it in place if you wanted to do that.
Do I see a tiny sock over there?
Oh yes, I do also have another finished object. This is hilarious. From this gigantic finished object to this teeny tiny finished object, I've knit another little one of my bookmark for Dobby socks pattern. It's a free pattern that I put out on Ravelry. It's called a bookmark for Dobby, and it's basically just a teeny tiny sock that you can use as a bookmark, or for whatever you want really. I think people like making garlands out of them, which I think is really sweet. And actually by coincidence, I knit this in some John Arbon yarn. They've got a new yarn coming out later this month, I believe. It's a sock yarn. It's called Exmoor sock. It's a mixture of 60% Exmoor Blueface, 20% Corriedale, 10% Whortleberries, I'm saying that wrong I'm sure, and 10% nylon. So it's a really interesting mix. You get 200 metres per 50 grams. It comes in 50 gram skeins, and these are all the colours. They're really pretty, some really lovely, kind of like a autumnally looking palette to me, those. And the colour I've got is Whortleberries. The names are fantastic. We've got Drumble, Aggie, Oddmedod, Dimity, Whortleberries, Bouldering Clouds, Mizzle. So I thought I'd knit up a little bookmark for Dobby in it, and I've blocked this. The yarn is interesting actually. It's not a typical sock yarn that I'm used to knitting with. It does feel quite rustic. And it is a little bit, I found it to be a bit thick and thin. Kind of reminded me a bit of a handspun in a way. It was fairly consistent, but then I would suddenly get to a section and it'd feel like it was much thinner. But it's a very strong yarn. Do you know, when I tried to pull it apart, it doesn't pull apart easily at all, so that's telling me that it's a really strong yarn. So I think it would be really hard wearing, but it's definitely on the for me it's definitely on the rustic side. It's got a bit of tooth to it, but I would say if you like that, if you like a more rustic toothy sock yarn, then it's probably worth a go for you, I think. And that'll be out later, I think later this month.
Cool.
So yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, last episode we reviewed our 2018 knitting horizons, but we did not have time to set our 2019 knitting horizons. So it's time for us to do that right now. So let's start with Kay. What is your first knitting horizon for 2019?
My first knitting horizon is that last year, if you remember, I designed the Miss Potter Sock Club.
Yes.
Now, I really enjoyed designing and knitting that whole collection. I loved it. I really loved it. And I really want to, this year, go kind of one step further than that. And I would like to design another club, maybe two, who knows. But this, I would really just like to see how far I can sort of push myself with the theme,
that I choose, and also with the designs.
You
that I
learnt a lot,
choose.
didn't you, actually? Because the
I
first
did learn
time...
a lot. I've never done that before, and it was a scary process, you know, because people are buying it unseen. You know, a lot of people did buy it before they saw any of the patterns.
Yeah.
Because I did that when we were away on holiday, and I took little Beatrix Potter books with me, you know, and we visited Hilltop Farm, and we were in the area. So I was completely immersed in it, and that's what I really loved, you know. So I want to do that again and just fully immerse myself in the subject, you know, the chosen theme, and just really get into it and come up with some designs that I just love. I find that whole thought of doing that and the whole process, it's really, really exciting and really motivating, and it's all I want to do. You know, when I get something in my head and I get an idea in my head, it's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else, and I find it really hard to kind of drag myself away, and I really enjoy getting myself immersed in something.
So to sum up, I suppose what you're saying is your first Knitting Arise for 2019 is to release another club in this year where you feel like you have pushed yourself to the maximum.
Yeah,
cool.
And I'm really excited at the prospect of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's Kay's first Knitting Arise for 2019. Mine is a little bit more simple, I think. And it's very straightforward, to be honest. I'm looking because I need to check and make sure that I say this right. And it is simple. I want to understand more and improve my ability to size projects.
Oh.
And what I mean by that is I haven't got a clue with regards to needle size, yarn weights, and if I'm casting on a hat or socks, I've got more of an idea. But hats, garments, I don't feel like I understand enough of what it takes to create the right size of whatever I'm knitting. And I find that frustrating. And it's frustrating that there isn't like a font of knowledge which, other than you, there isn't a font of knowledge that you can tap into that is sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's something that you've just got to get out there and learn, I think.
Well, normally
Trial
you're
and
following a pattern, aren't you? And
yeah, but I've done that and things have just gone...
It's your gauge, isn't
Yeah.
it? We're talking about your gauge here.
Yeah.
And I think gauge
Understanding yourself.
Gauge is a massive issue. Not in terms of it being a problem. I think it's just one of those things that is talked about a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
It's understanding...
if you get it wrong, it can mean the end of a successful project, can't
Yeah.
it? Because it can turn out too small or massive or
I suppose in a nutshell, it is understanding myself so that I can produce what I envisage.
Right.
Does that make sense? And I think, you know, it takes a lot, doesn't it, to understand, because when you first start doing anything, you've got to concentrate so much on just making it happen that actually understanding how you got from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I don't mean
Yeah.
the knits and the purls and following the pattern. I mean, you know, exactly what Kay's just said, the gauge and you know, general sizing too. You know, understanding, I wouldn't have a clue how many stitches. You would know instinctively, if I pulled out a particular weight of yarn, how many stitches roughly you're going to need to cast on for a hat for you.
Roughly, yes.
I haven't got a clue, Kay. Not a clue.
Right.
I could hazard a guess.
I guess some people say it doesn't really matter whether you know that, because if you're following patterns and you're just checking to make sure you get gauge, then you shouldn't really need to have that retained knowledge. But
I think you do need
think
that
it's-
knowledge, because by having that knowledge, look, there's lots of great patterns out there, but there's also lots of not so great patterns out there.
True, yeah,
And
yeah.
I've you know, historically when I've looked at stuff, I look at things and I think, oh yeah, that'll be all right, and then you look at it and you say, oh no, it won't, because look at this, this, and this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's knowing I want to be able to go and find a pattern and be able to get on with it. So my first horizon is improving my knowledge about me and being able to understand sizing a lot more.
Cool.
What's your second horizon?
Right, my second horizon is something I've been mulling over for much of this, well, probably all of this year and probably some of last year as well. I've been wanting to make myself, and you're all going to laugh when I say this because it's a garment, but I've been wanting to make myself what I call a pyjama cardigan. And by that, I mean that
I don't wear dressing gowns. I never have wore dressing. I'm just not a dressing gown person at all. But what I do wear over my pyjamas is I've got a couple of cardigans. One of them that I wear in the summer, that's a lighter one, and one for the winter. So when I put my pyjamas on at night, I always put one of these cardigans on top. And they're both looking a bit worse for wear. I've had them many years, and I just thought to myself, do you know what, I'm a knitter. Why can't I knit myself the perfect pyjama cardigan? And I started thinking about this, and I've been looking around at patterns and thinking about what yarn I would want to use, what yarn weight. And it is a complete minefield, isn't it, really? But I think I've concluded that maybe a fingering weight might be the way to go, because I never need anything. You know, we live in a centrally heated house, and although winter is chilly first thing in the morning, you don't necessarily need something really thick. So I think I'd be fine with fingering weight, you know, knit it at a decent gauge. I think it's fairly warm, isn't it? And also that'd be nice and light for the summer, so it would see me through most of the year, and it might just be in the really cold days where I've got to pull out one of my older ones. And then I thought about the fact that, yes, I'm not a massive garment knitter, as you know, and I just thought about the way that I would enjoy it the most. And I'm pretty sure that I would want it to be in pieces. And that instantly sort of rules out a whole lot of patterns, because there's so many these days that are knit top down, in the round, all that business. And they're great, but you know, it's brilliant that they're all out there. But I think I just prefer knitting things in pieces, and I just find it more portable, and I just prefer the process. And I think seaming a garment as well gives you more structure, and I really like that, especially with it being, if I go for a fingering weight, having a bit of structure might be a good thing. So then I started looking at designs, and I don't want something that's just plain stocking stitch, because that would drive me to absolute boredom. I don't, you know, I want something going on in it. Because that, I know myself that having just a bit of something going on, a bit of lace pattern, a bit of cable, a bit of something will keep me going. And I've just really struggled to find something, because I'm being quite picky about it. I think it's because I want this thing I will wear every day. And when you think you're going to wear something every day, you want it to be just that perfect thing, don't you? I want it to be soft, and I want it to be cozy, and I want it to be just the right length, and you know, I want all these things to be right. There are a couple of patterns that I've seen that I think maybe they would work, and I've made absolutely no decisions yet. So this is my knitting horizon, is to find a pattern, find a yarn. If I can't find the pattern, maybe it might come down to me thinking, can I design something that would just be very simple shapes in pieces, not a lot of increase on or decreasing going on? Is it possible to knit a cardigan with just some very basic shapes that you then sew together? Don't know if this is possible. I did find a couple of patterns that I'm thinking I'm going to look into a bit more. One of them is the pomme de pen. Pomme de pen, I can't remember who designed it now, but it's a very popular pattern, been knit a lot. It's been out a few years. It's an all over lace. I can't remember if it's fingering weight now. But that was one possibility. And then another one I've been looking at lately is an Andrea Mowry pattern called Rose. Really popular, I think, last year. And it's knit, I liked the idea of the construction for this, because it's knit side to side. So you knit two pieces that are basically the arm and this bit here. Two pieces the same, and then you knit two pieces somehow for the middle bit, and then you seam them together. And it looks beautiful. It's really, really pretty. You know, in the pattern it looks really pretty. It's got like a cable running down the button band here. My main issue with the pattern, well, there's a couple of things. One is that it's a sport weight, and sport weight is really quite tricky to find here in the UK. It takes some hunting down. It's not a very common weight of yarn at all. And the pattern actually uses Labby Enemy sport weight yarn. This is kind of a general bother. It's the fact that you will see some garments that you think that's absolutely beautiful, and then you look at the yarn and you think, oh my goodness, you know, that yarn is really hard to get. It's very expensive. And I worked out actually how much it would cost me to knit it in the actual specific yarn, and size medium, it came out at £200 €124, which is about £200 or $250, and that's without shipping. And that's if you can get hold of it. I don't even know if you can get hold of it. And that, to me, that makes it inaccessible, I think, to a lot of people. And I find that a little bit frustrating. And I do understand why designers choose to use these yarns, because it's beautiful and it looks beautiful, and I fully appreciate that. But then you've got to start thinking to yourself what an alternative might be. So I've been looking around, and I use a website which I'm sure a lot of you know. It's called Yarn Sub. All you need to do then is put in the yarn, press enter, and it'll bring up a whole host of substitutes, and it tells you percentage-wise how close it is to the original yarn. And I found one which was a commercial yarn by Phil Dar, I think it was, that looked quite interesting. So I'm going to look into that. So basically my second horizon is to either find a pattern or to come up with something so that I can knit my perfect pyjama cardigan.
Cool. My second horizon is, it's evident that I enjoy knitting colour work, but I've not done proper fair isle. And that is probably what you would say is the ultimate in colour work, would you?
Yeah.
So I have no idea if I would enjoy knitting fair isle or not, and I would guess that to approach it would need a properly thought out sort of plan of attack, because to just dive in, you'd probably have a nightmare.
Yeah, you don't want to start off with a full-on fair isle jumper, do you, really?
No. So I think that what I need to do is think through how I might approach this, but I would like to see if I would enjoy fair isle knitting. So that probably means trying something small, and if I enjoy that, then moving on to slightly bigger things. Because in my mind, I think I would. And I'd like to know, I'd like to be able to say at the end of this year, as we hit 2020, is fair isle something that I'm going to be doing a little bit of?
Wow.
I'd like to think it was.
I'd love you to do that.
I would.
I'd love a fair isle vest.
Yeah, cool. You know, and it would be great. I'd like to think I could do all this. So, you know, if the mind is willing, then anything's possible, isn't it? So my second horizon is to explore fair isle knitting.
Wow, that's a great one. My last knitting horizon is to explore a bit further the whole. I don't feel like I'm finished with the whole Beatrix Potter
Thing.
I feel like there's more in me, more cuteness in me to create something else based around Beatrix Potter, especially because we're going back to the lakes in the summer. I just think it would be a nice thing to work on when we were back there. I don't know what it will be at this stage, but I just, like I say, I just don't feel like I'm finished with it, and I would like to create something else with the same kind of Beatrix Potter theme.
So your final one is to do something else with Beatrix Potter.
Oh yes, that sounds weird.
My final knitting horizon is this. I love knitting yokes. It's been great fun knitting the Solia yoke, and I've loved that whole process, everything about that project. So what I've been thinking about is, what does Kay like to wear? And you do quite like cardigans.
I do like cardigans, yes.
So I want to knit you a yoked cardigan.
Oh my gosh, do you really? You do know that, well, you could steek it.
That's what I'm going to do.
Oh no, you're not.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I think I found one. It's a tin can knits pattern.
Right.
And it's called Clay.
Oh, yeah, I know the one. I'm sure you don't pronounce it like that.
Clay.
How would you pronounce that?
It's clearly a French-Canadian word.
Clayoki.
I'm guessing. But
French-Canadian, it'll be, right?
yes, I think that pattern might have potential. It might not be that pattern, because at the end of the day, I'd like Kate to look at it and go, yes, I quite like that. Wow. So, but I had a look at patterns, and that's the one that I sort of spotted and thought, and I've not...
What weight of yarn is it? Do you remember?
I can't remember. But I think whatever it is, I should just give it a go.
Right.
I don't think it was fingering.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You'd probably go mad. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put that on you.
No, and it seems crazy to do that. You know,
I'm
it
guessing
makes much more sense.
I'm going to guess it's maybe worsted weight, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
look it up.
you know, there's going to be out there a
absolutely.
a steeped weighted. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's do this. So, what that also means is the garment show, which is another episode of James at the Centre of the Yoke coming next week, and that will roll on for a second season, because I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting journey as I venture into the world of steeking. And, you know, people have loved that series, and thank you so much to everyone who sent me messages saying how much they've enjoyed it. So it will continue for a second season.
Wow.
So those
Exciting.
are...
I've never steeked.
Let's do this thing.
It's terrifying.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Bring it on, baby. I'm fearless when it comes to things like that, because, you know, at the end of the day...
It's just knitting.
I'll tell you something, I wouldn't be fearless if I was using that yarn that Andrea Mary used for her thing.
Oh, you couldn't use that to steek.
I wouldn't want to cut that.
No, you need a sticky yarn. You need a...
If I had 250 pounds worth of knitting, right, I'm now going to cut it straight up the middle. I don't think so.
No, you need to steek. You want a nice sticky yarn, so you want a non-superwash.
Yeah.
You know, good old traditional
I like it.
hard-wearing yarn.
I like it.
Yeah.
Bring it on, baby. Those are our knitting horizons, people.
Yes.
And that means...
Exciting.
It's time for the Endy Bits.
Oh, Wendy Bits.
The Great Pyramid Calendar Run is well underway, and excitement, we have started, after many requests, a Facebook group for the runners and walkers.
Yes.
So anyone who has joined the running and walking team, you can find out how to join that team by looking in our Ravelry group. I'll link it in the show notes below. If you want to come and join the runners and walkers as we walk straight around the world, getting together people to make merry when we return to the site of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and of course our Bakery Bears patrons, led by their team captain Kay.
Yeah, who are knitting up a storm already.
We are having a block party, baby.
We are having
and
a party.
And we're building a pyramid. So if you would like to come and join the Great Pyramid Run or Walk, go check the Ravelry group, and then if you are on Facebook and you would like to join the Facebook group, you get to see pictures of people's walks from all over the world.
I posted one the other day, but you see, it's amazing because you'll see like Erica Luda, who's got 3 foot of snow, and then someone else who's in boiling hot temperatures.
It's been lovely.
It's great.
It's really lovely, and it's just really encouraging, and you know, it's nice to feel part of a team even though we are scattered all over the world.
Yeah.
So what we'll do as well is we will be updating you on progress, and we'll do it in the Facebook group for the runners and the walkers at the end of each month, but we'll also do it in our Patreon Only podcast. So the next Patreon Only podcast is on Sunday, the 27th of January at 2 p.m. GMT, and much excitement, ladies and gentlemen, because 2 things. First thing is we're broadcasting on YouTube live for the first time.
Yes.
And remember, this is our exclusive show just for Bakery Bears patrons.
We practiced this as well.
We did, and it's absolutely stonking.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It's really
we think we have finally found the perfect medium for our Patreon-only show. So that is on Sunday at 2 p.m. But not only is there a new place where we're broadcasting, it has a whole new location too.
Yes.
You will join us in our room of requirement. Our brand new room, which now has 2 footstools. It has one for me and one for Kay.
Look.
We'll show them the footstools.
Yes.
Then review them thoroughly in the show on Sunday.
My new knitting chair, which has arrived and I love, required a footstool.
Yes.
So, you know, it's an ongoing business to get that ultimate comfortable position, isn't it, to knitting?
Now, to access that show, Bakery Bears patrons, we will post 30 minutes before that show goes live the link to the YouTube area where the show will be. So we'll post that on our Patreon page. We'll also post that in a Facebook group. So at some point within the 30 minutes before the show starts at 2 p.m. GMT, just follow that link, and there's a little waiting area for you to wait for the show to start.
You can wait and sit and knit, can't you?
It's marvellous.
Oh, it's like a train station.
It is. It'll be lovely. So we will see you then on Sunday, 27th, 2 p.m. GMT. There is a new Knitability coming out next week.
Oh, there is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
and it's a very exciting one because it's our first one of the year. We've got a lovely shop and we've got a lovely designer that we're interviewing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a lovely start to our year of publications of our magazine.
I might be
Knittability.
popping a little delicious recipe in there.
It is delicious. I had some for the first time in quite a while, actually, because you've not made it in a little while, so
No.
that was gorgeous. So there's going to be a lovely recipe from Ken and all sorts of other fun and games going on. And I think that's it.
Don't think I've got anything.
That's excellent
No,
news,
I don't think
Kate.
I've actually bought anything.
Excellent news, not because I have a problem with you buying things to do with
No.
knitting, but yes, that's...
I've run out of time.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We will see you in 2 weeks for more.
2 weeks.
Oh, yes.
It will fly by.
It
It will
will
soon be
absolutely
spring.
fly.
Oh,
It
let's
will.
will that on.
No, I'm cool. I'm literally.
Well, literally.
I'm cool.
It's freezing. I'm going for a walk now, everyone.
Yes. So join us next time when it'll be my turn to pick a film. And wonder of absolute wonders, I've decided to branch here and not just have ice cream, or maybe I'll have an ice cream sundae.
Oh, I didn't like that ice cream.
Well, I'm considering having a hot dog.
Oh, no, really?
Oh no, it's got bread with it. I can't do that. I'm going to go ice cream sundae.
You could have natural, but that's wheat, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah.
no, they're not. They're corn.
I've had nachos. I mean, I've had nachos in the cinema before. So I think I go ice cream sundae.
An ice cream sundae.
Yes, because they do them. They do ice cream sundaes. So don't miss that. We'll be taste testing an ice cream sundae when we're back for another exciting episode. Oh, and there will be a special gold edition of the Bakery Bears Picture Show where I will actually put in all of our review. So it's much, much longer. So that'll be coming out for gold and platinum patrons in the next few days. So thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for a brand new show.
See you soon.
Bye.
Stan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in